10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everybody, it's good to be with you. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you on No Sound Bites Allowed for Sunday. It is Sunday, and I just got out of work, and I was wanting to speak about this earlier today, but had to go to work and, got to pay the bills, because talking about political commentary or doing political commentary and politics in general does not pay unless you get elected. And boy, does it pay well once you are. So there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. In today, just very briefly, we're going to be talking about one simple thing: Baltimore and Elijah Cummings. Representative Elijah Cummings, Baltimore, President Trump. Let's get this out there, because we're hearing so much right now, and so much of it is vitriol that is being surrounded by race. Who's a racist? Is it Elijah Cummings? Is it President Trump? Is racism destroying Baltimore? Is the lack of racism or the lack of awareness of racism destroying Baltimore? It's almost impossible to tell at this point. I mean, everything seems to be racism. Everything is racist, no matter who says it. Well, as long as they happen to be white, it seems. And I'm just fed up with this. I don't know. Is it just me? Is everyone else out there just going, I'm fed up with this? Because I tell you what, we should be. This is so annoying. And I'm listening to this because this popped up over the weekend. All of a sudden, President Trump puts out a tweet and he targets one of his least favorite people, Elijah Cummings. Now, Elijah Cummings, for good, bad, whatever you want to think about him, the man has been in Congress since 1996. He got elected in 1996. He's been there 23 years. And in 23 years, he's become a figurehead of the Democratic Party and Congress. And he's one of those individuals who has spent a lifetime in government. Once you pass 2 decades, you're a fixture. And I have a problem with that. I mean, term limits. That should be one of the first things we all want to say. And by the way, Anfield, good to see you. And everyone else who's out there that I don't see immediately, it's always good to see you all. And I thank you for joining me on this Sunday night. But we should have term limits. And people like Elijah Cummings, Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, I don't care what party they're in, they've been there too long. They all need to go. You don't and shouldn't be in government 2 decades. If you're in that long, you've done something wrong. And I think there's a lot that's been done wrong here. And I think that Elijah Cummings, and calling him, whether you're calling Elijah Cummings a racist or President Trump a racist, you're missing the whole thing. You just don't understand what's going on. And by the way, for those who don't know, I will be having on, we expect to have on to the show, nope, that was the other day, the Baltimore, a mayoral candidate for Baltimore, Shannon Wright, who has spoken with us, and we've interviewed her twice now. We'll be having her back on, and I do invite you to check out the show. It's on Voss Political Commentary. You can listen to the audio and see the video when we did an interview with her, because I think too many people have not seen or heard firsthand what's going on in Baltimore. Nobody really understands it. And I think that's a part of the problem that we're seeing here. Because a lot of people are hearing, well, President Trump is being racist against Elijah Cummings. Not really. No, he's not. And a lot of people are hearing, well, President Trump is picking on black people in black cities. No, he's really not. What he is doing, very definitively, he's picking on a long-term congressman who has not been very effective at his job of representing his people. Now, you can say he's been great, he's been a wonderful Democrat, and that's fantastic. But one of the things that a member of Congress is supposed to do is to improve the quality of life of those that they represent. That's why you go to Congress, to make life better for the nation and for the people you represent. That's the goal. That's why we have pork barrel spending, is because you're looking at politicians who are trying to bring money into their community to help improve people's lives. I mean, Anthony Brindisi's been doing it. Richard Hand has done it. There isn't a member of Congress who hasn't done that to some extent or another. They've all done it. That's their job, in part, to do that. And so you would expect that if you have someone who's in Congress longer and has more and more power, that their community would do better and better, that they would have improvements. Because whenever it comes down to, there's something called CBDG spending, which is a federal grant, monies that come in for communities, cities, states, to be able to improve neighborhoods. And you would think, well, I've been in Congress 2 decades. I have a lot of friends. I get a lot of TV time. You're not a quiet wallflower. You would expect that that person's going to be getting more money for their district to do all kinds of things. Businesses are going to do better. Look at New York City. Do you think Amazon was coming to New York City and making deals with the governor and with everyone else because no one was trying? Because they weren't popular? Because they aren't figureheads? Because they have no experience? Come on, let's be serious. And I say all of that to try and put this into some kind of context. Because every time someone says, well, it's racist, they expect you to stop. They expect the conversation to end. You suddenly have been lost. You've lost because you're a racist. You can't talk about this. And I think that's absolutely wrong. I think it's absolutely stupid because that doesn't end a conversation. And you can't just say that. When you look at the comments that have come from President Trump and you look at the responses and going back and forth, guess what? He's talking about a city. He's talking about Baltimore. And Baltimore is not a pretty place. In fact, if you took a look at it, this is from USA Today. This was published on February 21st of 2019. And it's the 25 most dangerous cities in America. And if you look at that list and you scroll on down, and I believe it is number 9. Nope. A little bit further. These are some huge cities here. Number 3. The number 3 most dangerous city in the world happens to be Baltimore. Well, not in the world, in the United States. 25th most dangerous city in America is Baltimore. They had over 2,027 crimes per 100,000 people, 342 homicides, poverty rate at 23.1%, unemployment at 6.1%. Guess what? Those aren't good numbers. Those are bad numbers. There is nothing good about that. And if you're wondering, Elijah Cummings, why is he the one who's getting picked on? Well, Elijah Cummings happens to be the congressman for the 7th District, which covers about 2/3 of Baltimore. So when you're seeing a city that people are directly saying, your city, you're a congressman, you're representing 2/3 of a city, and that city is considered the 3rd most dangerous place in America, there's a problem. When you look at the history of the city from 1996 to today, 23 years, and you see that crime has increased, that poverty has increased, that the filth and rat infections have increased. So much so, there's such a problem with rats, to be exact, that the Baltimore Sun, the newspaper, the Baltimore Sun, spoke about the documentary Rat Film, talking about the problem with rodents and rats, and it aired on PBS. This is from February of 2018, okay? A documentary that was made about the problem of rats in Baltimore. This is not a city that's a beautiful, shining city on the sea. This has got problems. This is a city that we've seen how many mayors? 3 mayors in a row that have left in disgrace, where they've had problems with, well, corruption is rampant and insane. And we spoke with Shannon Wright, who is running, a Republican, black Republican woman who is running in Baltimore for the mayor. to finally turn the ship around and try and get some kind of leadership that will actually end the corruption that has been consistent among Democrats in Baltimore. And that brings you to, well, I have to ask the question. Elijah Cummings, powerful national Democrat, powerful member of Congress, 23 years in Congress. You think he might talk to his party, the local city, the Democrats, and say, can we pick one candidate for mayor that isn't corrupt, that isn't trying to bilk money out of the city, that isn't going to have some kind of massive scandal, that isn't going to try and promote protests and riots? Because you would expect that from a member of Congress talking about his district. So when you put it in that kind of perspective, you suddenly have to have a very different view, I think. And I hear this, and I look at this, and you have to say, well, Mike, it's not Chicago that you're talking about. And you're right. It's not Chicago when I look at this. And I look at Chicago, and Chicago currently has 281 people this year who have been killed, which is huge, And I want you to hold on, folks. Give me 1 second here, because give us 1 second. We're going to have Shannon on in just a moment so that she can speak with us directly. I was just waiting for her call to come in. Shannon, can you hear us?
I can.
Oh, fantastic. Folks, I have on the line right now Shannon Wright. She is a mayoral candidate for the city of Binghamton. And as I just mentioned, she's black, she's a woman, she's a Republican. She is a strong figure in the Republican politics in Maryland. And we were talking a little bit before the show about Baltimore and some of the issues that it faces, talking about President Trump and Elijah Cummings. And let me start off. Can you tell us, Shannon, what is the situation with Baltimore?
Well, in the last week alone, Baltimore made the list of the worst managed cities in the country, again.
Mm-hmm.
It made the list for the least safest cities in the country.
Yeah.
The least family-friendly cities in the country. One of our deputy police commissioners and his wife were robbed at gunpoint in the city.
Commissioner.
Say that again.
The commissioner?
Deputy commissioner, yes, and his wife were out, and they were robbed at gunpoint in the city.
Okay. That's bad.
This city, I mean, right now, Baltimore is in a place where it needs help. And although there are many folks that are complaining about the words that the president used, Baltimore City is a city that needs the spotlight right about now to be able to have resources and new legislation that will actually change the direction that the city is going in.
Now,
So
okay.
Would I have chosen some more sensitive words? Perhaps. But is the sentiment true? Absolutely. Is the dire need in this city true? Absolutely.
Okay. Shannon, let me ask you this, because I think it's important for people to get a good hold of it. We've seen since 2007, according to the Baltimore Sun itself, that there have been some 3,344 homicides in Baltimore, and that 516 of them occurred in the Western District, which is considered Elijah Cummings' district. And currently, in 2019, there are 191 homicides, 34 of which took place in the Western District. Can you tell us, where is this coming from? Is it poverty? Is it crime? Is it drugs, lack of education? Is it something that Elijah Cummings couldn't have any influence over? Or is President Trump just getting it all wrong?
I don't think President Trump is getting it all wrong, in that there are some serious, deep issues in Baltimore City. That is absolutely true. There are. I think that it's a combination of drugs. It's a combination of lack of jobs. It's a combination of crime just being rampant in the city. But you don't get to a place where Baltimore is overnight. So the solution's not going to happen overnight either. But
Right.
The city needs to go in a new direction. And I think if the spotlight that the city is under right now, this little microscope, can start to make that turn, all the better for the city of Baltimore.
Well, absolutely. I think anything that helps to improve things is always a good thing. Let me ask you this, because I'm very curious about this. Do you believe that President Trump saying that Baltimore, highlighting the facts that there is high crime, that there is a poor education, that there's an economic problem, when he highlights that, is he being racist? Is that racist because he says, Elijah Cummings, your district is in trouble?
Here's the interesting thing. Facts are facts.
Yeah.
Most of what the president quoted were accurate facts with regards to the city of Baltimore and its current condition. Now, again, I would have used some softer words so that they couldn't be misconstrued as racist or anything else. But the facts remain that Baltimore City does have a crime problem. The fact remains that Baltimore City has a corruption problem. The last mayor just forced to resign, the one before her tarnished by comments she made during the riots, and the one before that actually forced to resign because of proven criminal activity.
Yeah.
Baltimore needs a new direction. And if the words the president's choosing to use right now incite enough emotion either for or against, but bring resources into this city so that this city can turn a corner and go in a new direction, I'm all for it.
No, I can understand that. I have that. See, I one of the things I think, and I think we've heard this before, not with the last mayor Pugh, but the one before, I forget her name, when the riots were occurring in Baltimore City. And she said that
Stephanie Rawlings Blake.
That's it, Stephanie Rawlings Blake. When she was being highlighted, when Baltimore was being highlighted for the riots, and the fact that she was telling the police to stand down and allow the riots to go on, a lot of people said, well, that's racist. I think people use the term racism wrong. And I think that they apply it in these situations. It's, oh, well, someone's black is saying it, so we can't say anything now. And I think that's kind of what's happening in this case. Baltimore needs help. There are problems, but because they're saying it's racist, no one can do anything. Am I wrong on that?
So I think that we're in a stage and a place in our country right now where people are overly emotional about the words that they use. And I think that there is some legitimate concern that things can be taken out of context and misconstrued. So I get that. But the bottom line and the facts still remain. Baltimore is a city in need of help. And we want to see the resources and the help come into the city. Right now, Baltimore's local elected officials, all of the council members, the mayor, comptroller, city council president, are all Democrat. Right now, Baltimore's state senators and state legislators are all Democrat.
Yeah, and they have been for some time.
And they have been. The last Republican mayor in the city of Baltimore left office the year I was born.
Well, I'm not going to say how long ago that was. That would make me saying your age. You're a young, vibrant woman, and I'm going to say that. And your husband, Mike, is, I'm sure, shaking his head. Yes, that's the right answer.
Baltimore has so this is what I try to tell folks. Baltimore has a lot of issues.
Yeah.
There are solutions to these problems. There's not one problem Baltimore has that does not have a solution. The problem is we have a completely Democratic delegation, both in the city, in terms of the council, the mayor, the comptroller, and the council president, our state legislators and state senators, and our congressional representative.
Yeah.
So the problem comes where they have their extreme ideology of what they feel should work that clearly does not work in Baltimore. And then they bash the, quote, other side, which, as I said, there hasn't been a Republican leader in Baltimore City in a long time now. So you want to bash the Republicans, you're completely Democrat run. You still can't get it together. You want to bash the Republicans, and then you want to go to the Republican governor with your hand out, or the Republican president with your hand out. Instead of trying to come to the table, cross party lines if need be, to put the best interest of the people that elected you first. That's what's missing in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. That's a very powerful statement. And I got to ask something. And it's going to sound really weird, but given the culture, given Pelosi coming out and saying that President Trump's racist to say that Baltimore has issues, that it's racist to say that Elijah Cummings, the representative for the 7th District, most of Baltimore, to say that he could do more is racist somehow. Let me ask you this.
So,
oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so last week, I co-host a morning radio show with my husband, Michael.
Yes.
And we've got a nice little listening audience. And we were covering the Democrat hopefuls for president. Mm-hmm. Okay. We were talking about Mayor Pete.
Buttigieg.
And I made a comment, and I made it on the air. I said, perhaps Mayor Pete should spend more time in his home district and take care of things there, so he wouldn't have to then try and figure out how to spin his lack of connection to the black community based on activities in his own city. Maybe he need to go back home and spend some more time there. Now, I said that on the air. I am a black woman that said that about a white man. Does that make me racist?
I don't think so. I think that's a statement about...
I don't think so either, because I wasn't saying go back where your ancestors came from. I was saying go back where you live and fix that, then come show us how to do it here.
Right.
On a grander scale, which is the same way a couple of situations back, the president started with regards to comments that he made.
Which were not directed at any one person, but suddenly became about 4 women. But his comments initially were general. He didn't mention anybody by name.
By that metrics, then I'm a racist, because I suggested that Mayor Pete need to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in his city.
Well, and that's where I think it's so crazy, because everyone says, well, you're a racist. You're racist. Just because you say something about an elected official or a candidate doesn't mean, especially if it's fact-based, that doesn't mean you're racist. To say, like we've said it a couple times, and the important thing is fix Baltimore. That's the key. Fix Baltimore, which I think a member of Congress for 23 years, one of the most powerful Democrats in Congress, should have been doing. I mean, he's been getting money in for his district. He's getting pork barrel deals. Where is that money going if things have gotten worse in Baltimore while he's there, and he's not helping to advise any of the local politicians, apparently, because they keep getting in trouble? I mean, am I wrong in the way I'm saying that?
No, you're not, and it's quite sad. The last mayors that have all had their issues were mayors that Congressman Elijah Cummings all tried to push down our throats.
Oh, so these are his picks.
Yes.
So he's actively, to say that he was actively part of the problem in getting bad choices elected that then hurt the city even more, that's a fair statement.
Yes. Yes.
Which isn't racist. I'm black,
No.
You're black. If we were white and said this, it would still be a fair and true statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I had a conversation, I did an interview earlier today, and the gentleman asked me, he says, well, looking at the way that the president talks to Maxine Waters or Elijah Cummings, don't you think that that's racist? Because we have a lot of areas that, you know, have issues in the country, and yet he signals out them. I said, well, let's look at this. Elijah Cummings holds a position of leadership in D.C., not just elected as a congressman, but a congressman in leadership in Congress.
Sure.
You're in leadership in Congress, which means you are charged with helping to lead the entire nation when you can't even lead your district.
Yeah. That says a lot.
Again, Fact. It would be different if, as I said, Baltimore did not just make the list of the worst managed cities in the country, or the list of the least safest cities in the country, or the list of the least family-friendly cities in the country. It would be different if we hadn't just made those 3 lists this week. This week. I'm not talking about 2016, 2017, 2018. This week.
Yeah.
So when you show that you don't seem to have the skill set to be able to help where you come from, yet you want to go somewhere else and acquire power and tell everybody how to run their thing when you can't make sure yours is correct. My grandmother used to say, take care of home first.
Yeah.
Clearly that's not the case here.
No, I don't think it is. And hang on a second. I just want to see where people are here, because we've got several people: Steve Shimmerman, Christine Smith, Ann Field, so many others who are paying attention to this. Guys, you can also make comments. Tell us what you think. If you think we're wrong, let us know. And if you saw me scrolling before, that was on Wallet Hub. I was looking for the rating on Wallet Hub. I don't know if you know this, Shannon. They just came out with a listing of the best and worst cities in the United States. And what I was looking for is where Baltimore ranks on that. They have, out of 150 cities in the United States, Baltimore ranks 148th out of 150 in education, 148th out of 150 in healthcare or health, in public safety, 126th. In terms of the economy, 127th. Again, this is out of 150 cities. Funny enough, it has stability of 48. It's the 48th most stable city out of 150 across the nation, major cities across the nation. The problem seems to be that the stability has been negative, and it's been very stable and falling apart, which means there needs to be a change. And to say that doesn't make someone racist. I always come back to that same thought.
You know, I look at Baltimore, I look at Gary, Indiana, I look at Detroit, I look at south side of Chicago, South LA. There are issues in all of our cities. I won't say all, in many. And they didn't happen overnight, and they won't get fixed overnight. But let's take this anger and this emotion and this momentum that's been built about Baltimore and do something for Baltimore.
No, I think it's important to have a very positive outlook on this and to say, hey, how can we improve this? How can this stop? How can we get it to be a better place? And I know that's one of the reasons why you're running. And I thank you. I know it's last minute. We weren't expecting to have you on. I know you were just doing another interview and you came to us, and I thank you for that. For people who want to know more about you, I've already mentioned to them our prior interview that we did back in May. But if people want to know more about you and your race and what you're running for, where could they go?
So you can find all the information you probably would want on Facebook at Wright for Baltimore, and on our website, which is wrightformaryland.com.
Okay.
And I'm asking folks to literally put their money where their mouth is and to be a part of the change, positive change for Baltimore City. We are getting ready to, in Baltimore, move to public finance. And I'm asking people that want to see a change in Baltimore in leadership and in policy to benefit the people to please go to my website and consider donating $20. That's it. $20. Because that in itself will make a difference.
No, I think it can make a big difference. I think it can make a very big difference. One last question before I let you go. Do you know, I know back in 2015, Bernie Sanders ran through, he happened to drop in on Baltimore, and he had some negative impressions about his time there. In fact, I believe there was a couple of articles from the Washington Post on that. and actually, excuse me, I stand corrected. It's the Washington Times that Bernie Sanders compared Baltimore to a third world nation. Well, that was in 2015. And today, Bernie Sanders, running for president, is out there saying that President Trump is wrong and racist for saying Baltimore hasn't improved since Bernie Sanders was there. Do you know if he's actually ever shown back up in Baltimore?
Not
since
that I'm
that time?
aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know if Bernie Sanders, who is a member of the Senate and has been for decades, has he worked on any bill or put anything out that would help Baltimore directly, or something that he
Not
said?
that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I just
So
want.
yes, it's glass houses, it's stones, it's pots and kettles, it's all of that.
Okay, that's. I just wanted to double check because, again, for a lot of people like myself, I'm in the southern tier of New York. I want to make sure that, here you are. You're the source. You live in Baltimore every day. You know that community, and you know the needs of that community. And you would, and as a black woman, I'm pretty sure you're sensitive enough to understand racism when it confronts you. And I think the public needs that opportunity, which I don't think they get.
I am losing you a little bit there. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you anymore.
No, there's a thunderstorm in my area. It's messing with everything. No problem. Let me let you go. I thank you for the time today. And
Thank you.
We'll have you back on really, really soon. Follow up on the campaign and really talk about the campaign.
That would be awesome. I would greatly appreciate it. Please do keep up all the good work that you're doing.
I'm going to definitely try. And you do the same thing. Let's fix Baltimore.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, folks. So that was our guest, and that was Shannon Wright. And we always are happy to have her on the program, and you may have seen the prior interview with her. So here I am. I'm giving you something that you aren't seeing in any other media. You've heard Nancy Pelosi speak about what's going on in Baltimore and whether it's racist or not. Nancy Pelosi's district, by the way, is filled with feces. Nancy Pelosi's district is rampant with homelessness. But you're not hearing Nancy Pelosi talking about how she's going to fix that in her district. No, she's talking about, well, President Trump's a racist for telling you facts and not giving a solution to help the people of Baltimore. We hear Elijah Cummings coming out, and he's retaliating, and he's coming back out to fight against what he's hearing from President Trump, as it's been quoted by Slate magazine, that, Cummings hits back at Trump after Twitter attack. I go home to my district daily. And as much as Elijah Cummings is going back to his district daily, he seems to be failing. He's picked and helped to promote mayors for Baltimore that have failed so badly that they've had to resign, many of them under the worst of circumstances. And we're not seeing a solution. In 23 years, he hasn't gotten a solution that made things better, but he has found solutions that made it worse. Is that racist? No, it's not racist. These are facts. And I'm providing you the facts with all the data I can find. And guess what? This is data you can find too. And the media has access to this and more. I'm a one-man team, two-man. I have an intern, John the intern. But you know what? The New York Times has far more people than I do. Baltimore Sun has far more people than I do. And they seem to be turning a blind eye to this. So when you hear someone say that the facts, that telling someone a fact makes you a racist, you should stop and wonder, what's the agenda? What's the agenda? Because that's meant to silence you. That's meant to stop you from speaking. And I don't believe we should stop speaking. And I think that the most important thing is exactly what Shannon had mentioned, Shannon Wright, and what she's running her campaign on, is to be able to go out and fix the problem. That's what Elijah Cummings should have done a long time ago. That's what Nancy Pelosi should be focused on right now. That's what Congress should be working on right now. Because what's happening in Baltimore is happening in Detroit. It's happening in Chicago. It's happening in San Francisco, LA, New York. And guess what? It's happening in small cities like Binghamton, New York as well. And unless we are focused on fixing these underlying problems, crime, jobs, growth of jobs in homes and families, if we don't address that, guess what, folks? You're going to see the whole house of cards crumble. Just like we've seen in Detroit, in Chicago, in Baltimore, and all the other cities I'm mentioning. And it's not because the people are black. It's because you're losing the cohesion of our society, and you're losing the things that make life worth living. I don't want to hear this anymore, that people want to say, well, President Trump said something, so it must be racist. Let's stop that. I don't want to hear, well, you're a Republican, so you must be racist. Racists are racist, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, white or black. That's it. But that doesn't help us get to a solution. Let's focus on the solution. That's what I think. And I thank everyone who's stopped on a Sunday night to listen to this and have some comments. I hope you found the comments by Shannon Wright interesting, and please do check out her site and see what she's working on as a Republican black woman looking to fix what's going on in Baltimore. And I invite you to check out her site, which is wrightformaryland.com. It's also on Facebook, and to see what her solutions are that Democrats who have run Baltimore for decades, nearly half a century, have failed to be able to see. I don't know. Maybe it's me, folks. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm sensitive. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sensitive to people using racism as an answer for everything when it really isn't even important. But that's me. So we've been on for a little while. I thank you. I hope you found it interesting. I'm going to go. I look forward to seeing all of your comments. Tell me where you think I'm right, I'm wrong. I'll have a list of the links in the description. You can see this on YouTube as well. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere. Tell me what you think. Tell me where I'm right, where I'm wrong. What did we misunderstand? And I'm sure someone will tell me whether or not I'm a racist as well. But I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. And I want you to have a great Sunday night. Let's get ready for Monday. We're going to have a great start to the week. I'll talk to you again very soon.